I hear your phone or something buzzing.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah. I know. I always wonder why my phone does that when it's off. You know, I don't need to be reached every second of the day.
My kids are home from school today because we had ice, so hopefully they'll be quiet in the background.
Ice. Wow. Oh my goodness. Okay, where am I? Hello, everyone. Why aren't we showing that? There we go. Okay. Yes, so we're live. So welcome everyone. Akasha here with the Infinite Show. So happy to be here again with you in this special series about guidance and energies for 2022. So this week has been so much fun. We had 2222 the other day, and it's the Lunar New Year or the Chinese New Year, and we have the new moon. So we're still in those energies. And I had our beautiful astrologer who came with us on Monday and shared what this year is going to be like in the next couple of years. And she sent me something saying that we're not going to have another day that is 2222 for 108 years. So that was quite special. And you can always play, there's no real time or space going on. So you can always play in those energies if you missed being aware of that in the moment. And we had my beautiful friend Christian, and we talked about the Aztec and Mayan perspectives and truths and really being present and getting to some sacred spaces. So today we have this is the most unique thing, and you are going to be so excited to meet my guest today. So welcome. Be sure you go to nanakasha.com if you want to get on the list to be reminded of all the interviews and get the gifts. There's a big bundle there for you. And also to know whenever I go live on YouTube or whenever I post something new, which is quite frequently, you can subscribe here. And there's a little bell thing that is a notification. So you might want to do that. I also hope that you'll share this with everybody that you can, because the information that we're coming through with is so powerful. And you never know who might get seated, who might just hear that one little thing that makes a huge difference in their life. So today we've got Understanding Internal Unity Consciousness from the Autism Collective Consciousness Perspective for 2022 with Erica VanEaton. And I'll introduce you to her in just a sec. And next on Monday, we have my beautiful client and friend, Raquel Reyna, who's going to come talk to us about the perspective from human design and all of the really powerful energies and how more important it is than ever before to listen and follow your own blueprint, your own internal truth. And then Amy's going to share with us releasing burnout and depletion, which is so prevalent right now. In fact, mental health facilities are overloaded, apparently, because so many people are challenged with the breakdown and the transformation. So underneath it all, remember, there's all a reason. It's a metamorphosis. We have to lose our old shape. We have to lose who we were in order to become the new. And then you're going to really love Joan of Angels, because she's going to talk to us about the call to awaken and do some cards with her beautiful oracle deck, the cards, angel cards that she's painted. And she's always just an incredible delight. And then we're going to wrap up, and I'm going to share how to connect to your future self for optimal guidance, how to have that connection to create your life from your optimal future is a hard word, but next self, rather than from the past and the fear and all the things that happened in the past. So, all right, that's Raquel and Amy who are coming up next. And today, here's the beautiful Erica VanEaton. And let me share a little bit about her for you. So Erica is an intuitive energy healer that uses multidimensional techniques to heal the whole person from an ego, mind, body, and soul perspective. By integrating sound, light codes, and playing within the quantum field of realities, she's able to pull together those aspects of her clients that have not been realized or fully integrated. Perfect timing for that. We had a lot of slow energy, a lot of heavy energy at the end of the year and up until this week. And now things are really beginning to ramp up. I had so many things in my life that just started to go and just released. And it felt like, are we ever going to move forward? So if you felt like that, this is the perfect time to start to integrate the truth of who you are. We have never lived before in a time like this. This integrative approach that Erica allows for those on the autism spectrum to heal and be seen sometimes for the first time, but she works with everyone. Okay, so she's going to explain to us how this works and how her son is her spiritual guide and how she came to be doing all this, but realize that she works with a lot of healers, she works with a lot of light workers and a lot of people. So Erica teaches her clients how to communicate on a soul level and bring through their own codes of light to facilitate healings. Perfect. So we're going to have down below here, if you're on YouTube, the links on how to find Erica. We're also going to have them in the email. But however, I want to remind you that we're going to be sending you out the link to her free gift, which is access to healing, their MP3s on the Root Chakra Expansion, the Heart Chakra Healing, and more. Fantastic, fantastic. And she also has something that you could join. It is a purchase, but it's on special. And it's the Inner Child Healing on February 11th at 11 a.m. I love it. and that's Central Time. And here's her website, Erica VanEaton Healing, VanEatonHealing.com. And she's on Facebook and she's on YouTube. Of course, you're not going to be able to check that out. But like I said, just look in the description below. We've got the links there. Okay, so thank you so much for being here, Erica. I'm really, really excited about this.
Thank you. I am too. I loved your energy and I knew that I would be able to hold this topic. So I was excited when we agreed to co-create together. So.
Yes. Yes. Well, I was so happy you could join us kind of at last minute, but it was funny because I kept saying, there's some other people, there's somebody else who's going to join us, and I could just feel the space. And so you stepped right in, and what a unique and wonderful perspective is what I really wanted to do, is to find all these different systems or perspectives or people with different experiences and talents to give a wide variety of guidance for what we're going through right now. So, well, why don't you share with us a little bit about how you got to be doing this?
Okay, and I run a lot of healing energy through my voice, so you'll see me drinking a lot of water. So my journey into understanding energy really began with the birth of my oldest son, who was born with Down syndrome, and then we later realized was on the autism spectrum. But when he was born, we had an extremely clear communication. I just knew this child. I was interacting with him telepathically, but I didn't understand that because I didn't understand energy. I didn't understand spirituality. I just knew what he needed. And because we had this connection, I was able to teach and accelerate his learning. So by the time he was 3, he could sight read over 100 words. He knew colors, he knew shapes, well beyond what most typical children know how to do. But because I didn't understand energy, I didn't understand that my fear of him starting school and his teacher not being able to see and know his brilliance in the way that I knew it would cause me to pull that kind of teacher into our lives. And that's what happened. We pulled a teacher in that just saw him as a diagnosis. And because she held such a low vibrational standard of who he was and what he was able to do, he became that version that she saw, and we lost everything.
Oh my goodness. It's such an important thing. I just want to point that out. I really emphasize that. We have an opportunity now to truly become aware of what energy we're holding, because it's in everything we create. So like you said, because you had that fear, you were doing all this work, and you still attracted that. We don't want to get upset about it, but it's very important to realize.
I mean, I needed to go through it. Absolutely. It shifted everything because I knew that I was the core reason why these things were happening, but I didn't understand it. I'd had a miscarriage. There were behavioral issues happening with my kids, and that's just not who they were when they were at home. So I started meditating, I started exploring energy, and things began to open back up. And so oftentimes, one way that he taught me how to help him heal was he would come to me in my dream state, and he would show himself doing something that he wasn't able yet to do in the physical, because people with Down syndrome oftentimes have low muscle tone. So it's very difficult for them to learn how to transition into sitting and walking and all these things. So he would come to me in my dream state, and I would have this emotion of joy of what he felt when he was able to do this thing. And it would be super vivid imagery. And I would wake up and I could still feel that emotion, and I could see that vivid picture in my mind of him doing the thing. And it would be shortly after those dream states that he would then be able to step in and do the thing. He was teaching me how to heal and how to hold space for him in the quantum field for him to step up into. So when he started school, I saw this, massive struggle, and I started doing energy healing work on myself because I knew that I was perpetuating the behaviors and the dysfunction that was occurring. But my questions always were, why is he affected so greatly by those around him? What do we need to shift and change as a human container to allow such a beautiful, expansive soul to be in his body? What needs to occur? And so one of the very first speeches I ever wrote when I started my business was channeled through Mother Mary. And the first line was, those with autism don't have filters of the ego or others within the mind to help process off all the information coming into the world around them. So it took me a couple of years to sit with that and to begin asking the right questions to bring forward different perspectives of how we can operate differently. And so what came was the Pleiadian Council of Light came to me and in meditation, and they said, we want to begin to shift your ego. Instead of it operating from a fear-based perspective that it's been trained to, we're going to bring it into neutrality first. And then from neutrality, they moved me into compassion. And so we have to begin to look at our egos and our minds and our body consciousnesses as something that has a voice, but they haven't always been aligned with the soul because it was never trained that way. No one ever told them it was possible. So we begin to look at these different aspects of self. And when I did that for myself first, my sons naturally fell into place. And he can go to any place, anywhere, at any time, and he's okay. He's settled in his body because he now has a filter of his ego. But it's not one that's ever going to be out of judgment or fear. It's his ego operates, and what they're here to show us is that our egos can operate as a beautiful shield, as something that just sees frequencies coming into our field. So if there's disharmonic frequencies, negative energy coming into our field from our environment, our egos can look at that and be like, that's not a vibrational match to the soul codes that reside in the heart space. That's something to redirect back out of our field. It's just not a vibrational match for us. He's never made up a story about why someone is the way they are or why they look the way they look. And I knew that before I woke up. I was like, wait, he's not filtering anything through an ego. He's not creating a story around anything. So, but he needed the ego. And that was the biggest learning curve for me, was they needed a shield of some kind to help process off the information. So I was in meditation later on, and I brought forward Archangel Michael, and I work with the White Brotherhood of Light and the Divine Mother and all these different beings. And I asked the question, I said, how come you can come to me as a collective and I can feel you and I can channel you as a collective, I can work with you as a collective, but what is it that gives you the ability to individuate and come to me as just Archangel Michael, not the collective archangels, or just Mother Mary and not the collective Divine Mother? And they showed, and so I asked, do you have an ego? And the answer was, yes, it's just never been programmed through emotions. It's just a shield in our matrix that helps us process through frequency because they don't feel emotion. So the difference between us and the rest of the galactic beings is we have an experience emotion here. And it's difficult for those light beings, a lot of healers and star beings, to understand that it's not something to deny. It's not something to bypass these beautiful emotions of pain and fear and trauma. It's something to move through. And so we have to learn in the human container, and we can talk to the body and give it permission to move emotions on our behalf, so that emotions don't always have to go up to the mind. We can give our mind permission to expand and to just see things as frequencies instead of getting overwhelmed by the energies coming in. So that's what my son taught me how to do, was how to bring back into alignment the ego, the mind, and the body consciousness back to the soul, and look at them as if they are soul fragments, because they are. And if we bring them back into alignment with the soul, then they know that their role here is to allow the greatest expansion of self-expression, of our God codes, of our divine codes of light, and they all begin working together. And so with the different frequencies that we have coming to Earth right now, it's definitely affecting the mind a lot more, the mind and the body more than anything else. You know, we have trillions of crystals in our brain, and they vibrate according with the electromagnetic frequencies, so that are coming into the Earth, you know, all these different they carry these frequencies, and they cause the brain to vibrate. They cause these crystals to vibrate at certain frequencies. And when we don't have a breathing path, if we don't have our mind talking to our body and our mind and body talking to our soul, then it can come into fear, because the frequencies are a little erratic, right? They're a little erratic. They're a little faster than we're used to. And so the chemicals getting released in the mind and the chemicals getting released in the body are different than what we have felt before. They seem stronger, and they can kind of seem consuming. So we have to learn how to process, how to communicate as a whole human container and breathe through it, so that we don't fear these different kinds of shifts and changes, but that we can incorporate them and radiate them back out to be that divine bridge of light of heaven on earth through the human container.
Wow, how beautifully put. It's just exquisite. Your journey is so beautiful. I love how what we've been conditioned to think of as problems, challenges, or something bad are the guides. You know, I really believe our lives are like a map. If we look at them like the soul is guiding us back on, you know, into alignment from wherever we are. And then these are always opportunities or doorways for us to begin to open a different line of frequency, a different vibration, a different state in order to be in there. I want to emphasize a couple things. I loved how you talked about the ego. A lot of times, especially in spirituality and healing, there's this judgment of the ego, like it's this bad thing. And it's necessary if you want to be in a body, right? It's necessary to know who you are, to have a distinct personality, to accept and enjoy and become an expert at your unique combination of things, experiences and talents and gifts and all of that. And yet it's been run rampant. And I know a lot of my clients are in great fear of owning their powers because they've seen such abuse of power. So they're like, I don't want to be like other people who do that. So that's really an incredible way of seeing that ego, and the way that you described lining up all of our bodies. So we are moving into higher frequencies. Things are moving faster. There's more codes coming from the sun. There's more of these higher potential for communication pathways. And yet it's like, if you're not at that frequency, it's bzzz, or, you know, and we're cleansing out the body. So do you find that this is a common issue for your clients, just being stuck in that ego and feeling frustrated with judging where they are?
Yeah, well, the first thing I do with all the clients is I tell the ego its original purpose, its original role, and we expand that out. Now, one thing that the Autism Collective Consciousness taught me too is when we incarnate, you know, we all begin on the white ray of light. We hit a prism, and that prism separates that white ray out into a whole spectrum of rays. And these different spectrum, these different colors of the rays hold different levels of consciousness, hold different things that levels of wisdom that we incarnate on, and then we live that experience out. So the difference between those with autism is, instead of incarnating on 2 or 3 of the rays like most of us do, they incarnate on the entire spectrum of light. So if you can imagine they gave me this example one time. Imagine that you're at the top of a ladder and you're looking down, and you can see this entire playing out on the earth plane. And if you're standing on the bottom of the ladder, the bottom step of the ladder, there's only so much you can see. Your perspective is a little limited, and the amount that you can see and experience is a little bit more limited. Well, imagine coming down from the top of the ladder, and you're seeing all these things, you're feeling all these things, you're hearing all these things, and it's a completely different perspective than if you were at the bottom of the ladder. So the amount of frequency that they hold originally was almost too high for the human body to accept. They would start to come down, and then they would hit the lower 3 chakras, and those chakras were spinning too slow because of the emotional warfare that we've played out upon the earth plane. So they would kind of splinter off, and they would bounce outside their body, or they would kind of fragment and be fragmented outside their body. And if we're not fully centered down to the root chakra, then we can't fully process emotion. And what are we here to do? We're here to understand and process emotion. That's the difference here. So the first thing that they had me do was upgrade basically the root chakra. And that's one of the MP3s in that free library that I have, taking it out of a place of survival, the underlying frequency of survival, into one of trust. And that really expanded. And so these more expansive, higher vibrational souls, I don't want to say higher, because that's not true. It's like a sphere inside of a sphere inside of a sphere. It's just more expansive souls can actually come down and align into the chakra system. So first we had to upgrade that. And that was a big part of like 2020. And,
Yeah.
right? It was we've done a lot of work on our root chakra and our sacral chakra and our solar plexus. And we had to do that so that we could begin to encompass a greater spectrum of light.
Yeah. Yeah.
We couldn't do it before. It was too high. The other thing that we had to do, and I did this all last year, was a lot of my large group classes, was understanding that our body consciousness is mostly made of microbacteria. I have a medical background. I worked as a cardiac sonographer, and I had physics background and all that kind of stuff for over a decade. So I can kind of talk a little sciencey. I'll try to keep it very basic.
Yeah. It's a great mixture though. I'm the same way. I'm a homeopathic doctor, and I've studied a lot of the different science and medicine of it. And you don't need it, but some people need it for their logical brain, right? Mm-hmm. To be able to blend these two ideas, and the spiritual and the abstract and the etheric. However, if you are drawn to it, it is such a wonderful thing to watch them, like the puzzle pieces, come together.
Yes, exactly. So what they had me begin to do was to heal the microbiome and reconnect them back to source energy. Because when we think about all the chemicals that we placed upon on the earth plane, they had to shift their frequency to be able to handle these chemicals. So their frequency, their overall frequency, has been lowered. Well, like over 90% of our physical container is made up of microbacteria, parasites, viruses. So we had to heal them to be able to hold as much light.
So are you explaining a little bit what the pandemic and this is about? Is that what you're saying? Because yes, we have viruses and bacteria everywhere all the time, millions of them. They don't go away. They can poison your house, but there's still going to be some there. Yeah.
Well, our actual physical container is 95% plus microbacteria. Even our DNA, over 90% of our DNA is actually the DNA of the microbacteria. Yeah. So one beautiful gift that the pandemic gave us was that everyone had to stay home, right? Yeah. So we didn't have the same amount of pollutants polluting the microbacteria that we were consuming or that we were walking on, and allowing those things become part of our body. So we had to do some healing work on our physical container, on the microbacteria themselves, to bring their frequency up so that they weren't scared of allowing these more expansive, more rays of light to come into the physical container, so that it was a more vibrational match. Because your body, when we die, a lot of people think that, our physical bodies just die and that's it. The physical body, it has its own consciousness. Part of it comes with you to the other planes, and part of it goes back into the earth. And when we reincarnate, that aspect of us, those aspects of us that vibrate in the microbiome, they come back to us due to harmonic resonance, like attracts like, that still carries our codes. So we are continually needing to heal, not just this body, but they've been having me do healings on past life bodies that have experienced and healing the microbiome. And we can reconnect our microbiome, clearing their connection to source energy.
Yes, perfect. Oh, I'm so glad you talked about that. I actually haven't found anybody else. It's gotten to where when I first started doing this work 30 some years ago, past life things would come sometimes, and sometimes clients would be like, I don't believe in past lives. I'd be like, that's okay. And they'd be like, but I just experienced one. And it was profound. And in the last 2 years, it's just rampant. It's just constant. Even in my mini readings, even in the small sessions, there's usually 1 or 2 or 3 of the other lives. It's always agreed upon, right? Like this big fear, you're going to bring it in because you're going to be here alive at this time, right? When there's everything accelerated, and you're going to bring all of our fears, and we're going to, but instead of like in the olden days of healing, where we might connect to another life, we might discover the contract or the agreement or the attachment, the fear, the soul wound, however you want to frame it, that was there, that is affecting this life, and then releasing it. The lives are so present. Those other parts of us are so present. And it's like, I'm going to heal, you're going to heal, we're going to release, we're going to do whatever specifics, and then we're both going to move forward. So it's like so many parts of our soul are being released to be free to move on and to move to these higher frequencies, become more of that. Also, really important what you're saying about the pandemic. I think that a lot of healers and people who are on a conscious path already know at some level, right, that this is all helping, that there's something good happening underneath it, but they are sucked into the drama and the fear and the family and the Facebook and all this stuff. And yet the understanding, what you've shared with us, is so powerful, because understanding that at these levels, we always say we're all one, okay? We're all one. And it was a nice abstract idea and very heartwarming. And now we're seeing, oh, even science is showing us literally, physically, we're barely physics and we're connected to everything, and there's no time and there's no space and there's all this thing. But now we're seeing, and we've heard a long time, Gaia, the earth, a being that our bodies are made out of, is ascending or raising her frequency and moving into these higher realms, higher frequencies. It's just a faster vibration, right? And yet this idea that the bacteria, not just the animals and not just the water and not just the plants and the things that we can relate to, but the bacteria and the viruses, that all living beings on this planet and above and around it are in that same ascension process. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So we want to step into unity consciousness, and those on the autism spectrum, that's where they live all the time. But we have to understand what that means here. We can step into unity consciousness, but that doesn't mean that we lose our sovereignty. That doesn't mean that we lose our individualization and self-expression, and that we're not all going to have the same kind of desires. We're not all going to have beautiful pink hair, right? We're all going to express ourselves independently. So it's a continued question of boundaries. How do I need to see this differently? And every morning I wake up, every time I work with a client, I'm like, okay, give me a different perspective. How do I need to see this differently? How do I need to understand this differently? And that was the only way that I could begin to really help and understand my son. So everything that we have read up to this point, I'm not saying that it's something to be disregarded, but continue to expand the levels of consciousness that you're looking at it from. Pull your energy back and look at it from a broader perspective, but deeper into it. There is light in everything. There is light through all darkness. There is light if we look hard enough. And so we can't bypass the pain, because if we look through the pain, there's so much divine wisdom and light in it. The problem is that we get stuck in the pain because we've never fully learned how to process emotion. But that's how we create here. We literally play with the quantum field through the electromagnetic frequencies we radiate out with our emotions, thoughts, and feelings. And that's different than the angels. The angels don't play that way. That's different than the Pleiadian light beings, Arcturians, whoever. They don't play that way. They just play with frequency, but it's different for us. And so for us to want to just tap into our star being self, but not honor that very primal earthly aspect of self, it's not going to fly. It's not going to bring us into unity consciousness.
Yeah.
We came here to experience being human, and being human means being fully grounded in this incredible container of light that we've been gifted, that we call the body, that's made up of so many different aspects of the earth.
Yeah.
The earth holds star energy in her. I think so many people forget that the earth is a star being.
Yes.
We think that, oh, we need to go out to, the Andromeda star system. The earth is an incredible galactic being of light, and everything that we need is right here. And she showed me how to open my womb space so much that, like, I can see the cosmos and I can see inner earth within my own sacral chakra. Everything that we need is right here, and we can ground into our own biofields. And so if you want to do that right now, that's something that we could just teach everybody how to do.
Yes, that sounds wonderful. I love how you're talking about chakras. I know I'm going to be doing a chakra upgrade class in March, and it came through at the end of the year. And I remember thinking, a lot of people think, oh, chakras, I know chakras. What about chakras? And the problem is it's like what you're talking about, like we're raising our frequency, we're reattuning our bodies and minds, all of our bodies, to be able to hold higher and higher frequencies. And it's one of the core parts of our spiritual anatomy is the chakra system. And it has to be upgraded. It has to be, it's like having an old computer that can't run the fast games or the speeds of, or, this kind of thing. So it's so vital for us to do this. And okay, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, because we'll breathe, and we're going to ground into ourselves. And this again is something that was shown to me by the Autism Collective Consciousness, because we're becoming them, their next evolution humans.
Oh, that's very nice. So before you do this, just give us a little better understanding of this collective that you work with. You seem to work with a lot of different levels of realms and beings, but since that's your specialty, I think because we have looked at all mentally, quote unquote, mentally ill or physically limited, or however else you want to put it, people. Of course, we used to lock them all up and throw away the key, but thankfully now, but that idea that it isn't that they're missing something, that they have to become like us, or we have to pity them, right? Draw that victim energy in to project on people. And we don't have to evolve into someone who can't communicate. We're bringing the two together.
That's exactly it. We're bringing the two together. So
nice.
When you see someone with autism stimming, flapping their arms or spinning or yelling or something, what really needs to happen is everyone in that room needs to put a mirror up and look and see what they're projecting out that person is feeling and showing back to you. They just mirror back to us the things that we need to shift and change. So many people with autism have a lot of gut health issues. Well, most of the people on the planet have gut health issues now, right? But it started, the awareness of gut health really started within the Autism Collective Consciousness. What they were showing us was the need to heal the microbiome on this very expansive scale, really. Correcting, bringing back into alignment their vibrational frequencies to their divine blueprint, because it was too slow for them. It was too slow for them. They brought about the awareness that we need to open, heal, and expand the lower chakras. How do we do that? Well, we have to heal emotionally. We have to heal our emotional bodies. We have to heal and take responsibility for what we're projecting out onto the planet or what we're bringing in. We're not victims. We're not victims. We choose and we make decisions all the time, what we're allowing to come in and what we're projecting back out. So for them, my question always was, how can I help them embody more fully? And it was through unifying this human container. But they were just mirroring back to us what we needed to shift and change for ourselves so that we can hold the entire spectrum of light. Most of us haven't been able to hold we couldn't incarnate on the entire spectrum of light because we couldn't hold it. We weren't ready. We didn't have the levels of consciousness that they do, but they do. And we're wanting now to come into unity consciousness. We're wanting now to understand these very expansive concepts and understandings, and what is compassion really about, and what does that mean on a very human level. Well, we have to be able to hold the ray of light that brings that information in. So that's where we're meeting in the middle. They show me what we need to heal with the human container. We heal it, then they can embody more fully. And it's going to be that song and dance. They're not ever going to fully heal until we do, because they're here to show us what we need to shift and change. So
yeah, beautiful. Well, and the full color spectrum I've worked with for a long time, since I learned radionics and many years ago. And the idea that, you know, we can't hear things dogs can hear, we can't see things that insects can see. It's our vehicle, our car, you know, our body has those limitations of what it can perceive. If we even understand now that the brain tries to turn something into a pattern it recognizes, so it often doesn't see the millions and millions of things that are happening around it. So that idea of the container that you're in can be raised, but to recognize that it's been limited and is limited by the conditioning and the emotional toxins, as well as the other things. And of course, the food isn't food very much anymore. And a lot of those things people really resist, or feel, like you said, feel like a victim. Well, I had this problem, or I have this abusive thing, or my parents did that, or I don't have the money for this. And all of that is just handing our power away to those old ideas that we don't have a choice. So I love what you're doing. I just love everything you're saying.
Thank you. All right. Well, let's teach how to ground into ourselves, because even with what I was noticing with people grounding was they were like leaving their body to ground, or like just wanting to ground, you know? So we have to learn how to trust ourselves, how to trust our own biofield and ground into ourselves. So if you would like, just close your eyes. When we close our eyes, it activates the pineal gland. The pineal gland's in charge of releasing melatonin, which helps methylation in the mind, in the brain. And all that means is that it turns chemicals from one form into another form, into good feeling hormones is our objective here. So if you close your eyes and take a big breath in through the heart space, and just feel your heart begin to expand, and allow yourself to breathe it out at whatever pace your body is asking you to. Now, from your heart space, envision a sphere of light growing bigger. And as the sphere of light grows bigger, there's going to be a ray of light that comes up through the top. It's going up your throat, through your third eye, out your crown, to the top of your auric field, to the top of your energy field, to that outermost rim that some people call the etheric rim. As it hits that outermost rim, it's going to flow down all around your energy field, that sphere of light, that container that you live within, down to the bottom under your feet. And then it's going to come back up through you. It's coming up through your feet, through your calves and your knees and your thighs and your hips, up into your abdomen, up into your chest. And it's going to continue to flow in this way. Now I would like you to envision another sphere of light, but this time it's in your root chakra. And as you breathe into your root chakra and the sphere of light begins to grow, we're going to drop another line of energy. You're going to notice energy start to come down through the root chakra. It's flowing down your legs, down your feet, down to the bottom of your energy field. It connects with the outermost rim of your energy field, and then it begins to flow up all around you. Until it reaches right above your head, and then it's going to come down through you again. So we're really connecting with and opening up your toroidal field from within. There's energy flowing up and flowing down all around you. And then there's energy flowing down through you, coming up all around you. So we're really connected from above and below, but we didn't have to go anywhere. Now you can bring these and imagine they merge in your solar plexus. And just allow your solar plexus to expand and open. Creating that bridge and holding that bridge of heaven and earth internally. So you become that bridge. And there's nowhere you had to go to do it. So you can take a big breath in and open your eyes when you're ready. It doesn't have to take very long at all. I'm feeling quite a few of the people that are listening with their crown chakras blocked. So if it's okay, I'm just going to kind of lift that. Trusting, it's we have to learn how to trust that we can do these things on our own. That's better. Okay. Yeah.
Wonderful. So in case anyone doesn't know what your toroidal field is, it's a tube torus, or a toroidal field is what is the energetics, one of the energetics around every single thing in form. So we can see them when we get pictures from outer space of the field coming into the planets or the stars and out around. And it usually brings in a lot of different energies and vortexes or spirals through us. So we literally are infinitely provided with energy coming in and moving through us that we can access. It's really only inside of our belief system that says, oh, I don't have this and I don't have that. So
yeah,
beautiful.
Thank you for sharing
that. And so then, so this was like a really nice balancing, and I like that, of having this recognition of the different parts of your body and people seeing that. And now, was that the grounding, or is this also how people do that biome, get the energies into their biome balanced?
It's infinite. I mean, we can use it however we like to use it. I use it as grounding today, but you could definitely then, from grounding into yourself, drop a cord into the earth, connect with her and ask for her to bring that divine blueprint of the microbiome forward and reconnect them, and then reconnect them to source energy. So we can use it in an infinite amount of ways, and it doesn't have to take very long. It can be super fast, but it's also just about acknowledging these different aspects of yourself that haven't really had a voice, or that have been overlooked because we've been so focused on our intuition and maybe not our instincts, right? There's so many different players in our human container that haven't been fully recognized because we've been so concentrated on just our spirit, expanding our spirit. Well, what allows our spirit, what allows our soul to express itself here? It's this human container, and we have to take care of it, and we have to align it And so it can express, be its fullest expression of self.
Yeah, it's very interesting, having been on my spiritual path or personal path, in a conscious way, um, for about 35 years, and how not only the difference being internet or doing healing where somebody sent you a letter and 3 weeks later you got it and you did the healing and you wrote it up and sent it back to them, and there wasn't this like being on Zoom and I'm doing it right now and everybody's connecting. All of that stuff is wonderful, but what I really enjoy seeing is the perspectives that are shifting. The first channel I used to go to, used to do a once a month talk at a bookstore, and when people would come, they would they were constantly obsessed with things like, when am I getting out of this body? When can I get out of this? Being in a body, being on earth, it sucks. It's this punishment. My toe is bad again. I have a wart. Why did the harmonic convergence come and I stood in the backyard all night and nobody took me out of this place, this hellhole, and finally realizing how divine and beautiful our bodies are, what a gift they are, even if they have certain limitations, even if they're old or have that problem or that problem of whatever you perceive. The honor and the blessing of getting to be here, especially right now in this big hot mess, when we get to evolve in a way that's never happened. And the unity consciousness that you're talking about, I've been talking about for all last year, that this year is all about unity too, one and one, and reuniting with ourselves, coming into unity back again with me and these other parts of me and my truth, me and my destiny, me and my soul blueprint, however you want to put it. And the idea that you're not wrong. You're not screwed up. You didn't fail. You have navigated your way through many lives to this moment, and your soul level is aware of all of that. And it's like, yeah, you made it here. Way to go. And now you are a part of the shift in consciousness, the raising ourselves to crystalline frequencies and all this other fabulous stuff. And so many people we've been taught and conditioned to have a plan and to make it happen and to want to see the result right now, and to not sit and listen and recognize and be in the moment and realize everything is here. And like you said, we have everything we need within or on the planet around us. If something is like, oh, this is on my mind and I really want to do that, this is what you're being offered to deal with right now, right? Like, what's on your plate, and just being in your journey. But it's all those things that I heard. I studied with Zen masters and shamans and just mystery schools, on and on and on over the decades. And the perception that we're flawed, that we're bad, that we're not good enough until we get out of here or we become an angel or something. And I love how you talked about that. These other realms are different types of beings. They're not better. They have their limitations, so to speak. And we have a very unique, we are honored being in a body. It took a lot of effort to get here.
This reminds me of, I was working with a client a while back, and she's a beautiful healer. So we can go all different kinds of places. And we had worked through some pretty heavy stuff. And at the end I heard, let's just play. So I was like, okay, let's play. So we expanded out as far as we could. And we were probably in the 14th, 15th dimension, somewhere out there. And we saw this rainbow portal open and these beings came forward, and we were looking at them, and I could see right through them. It's like I could see the cosmos inside of them. And I ask questions. I always ask questions. Everybody that I work with knows that I'm going to ask a million questions, not just to them, but to their egos and to their guides and everything. So I asked them, I said, do you know your soul purpose, your entire lifespan from where you're at? And the answer they said was yes. And then this even surprised me. I asked, do you get bored? Because we always want to know here as humans, what's next? What am I here for? What am I supposed to be doing? And it just really occurred to me in that moment, do you get bored? And they kind of chuckled, they laughed at us, but they said, no, because we're in the universal stream of energy, it's just a flow. But in that moment, I was like, holy cow, I am so grateful for the not knowing that we have here. it really gave me an entirely different perspective that I could feel in my whole body. And it helped me relax, like just truly relax into the not knowing. It's such a gift. Like, can you imagine being here and knowing exactly what was going to happen every day, all day?
Yeah. Well, and this is such a great thing. I've studied and worked with and journeyed with so many different kinds of shaman in different cultures. And the similarity of one of my favorite tools is that shamanic journeying type of experience. But that's part of it, is that many of them on a regular basis can reach forward into what's next, what's coming, or what they're going to go through, and the goal then is as you expand your frequencies, your connections, your communication, if you know something, can you still live in this moment and make choices from the moment and not be affected by what is coming? Like you're here to be here in the moment, to be aware of this. When we're distracted or we're afraid, let's say somebody that is in the hospital and you're just like all day long, part of you's over there, right? You're not here. What? Oh, I cut myself, or I didn't hear you. What'd you say? We can be here, not be here. And so most people don't have that level of mastery, emotional and mental mastery, so to speak, to know all this stuff and still be able to be in the present. There's too much fear. And I can tell you there's plenty of shit that's happened in my life I'm glad I didn't know was going to happen, because it would have been like, oh no, like, can you still move towards that very important thing? It would be like, oh no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. So yeah, and that's what's fun about right now, is there's so many people are talking about this. I can remember decades of feeling like I was wandering in the wilderness with all of this language, and was like, I'm never going to find people who could speak this language. And now it just felt like everyone's using this language, and the process you have to go through to understand, expand out of the paradigm and the conditioning that you were taught. This is the way things are. It cracks me up, because sometimes, not often, because I don't really attract it anymore, but sometimes somebody comments on a video or something like, this is the stupidest thing I ever heard. Energy isn't real. What's the matter with you people? And I think, have you used a cell phone? Do you use your TV? Could you just clue in? Could you pick up a book and read a book? That's not real. And it just shows you how we can all live in our own reality. We do create our reality. You got people over here saying this is true, people over there saying you're wrong, this is true, and it's all fine. Everybody can be where they want to be.
Different dimensions are playing out all the time. And so I think there was another false perception when everybody was talking about the new earth, that the old earth had to die, or that
yes,
third dimension had to die in order for the fifth one. Well, that's not true. In order to be physical, vibrational particles have to slow down enough to actually stick together to create a program, to create the physical container.
Yeah.
So these old programs, these old paradigms, it's not that they have to die in order for new ones to be reborn or be created and be born or be experienced. It's that it's all happening all the time simultaneously, and we get to choose. It's a decision every day that we have to choose. We're going to always have experiences that bring us different kinds of emotions. We're going to experience the entire emotional system, but we get to choose how we move through it. Are we going to live in it, and are we going to allow it to pull us to a certain dimensional plane where that program, where those emotions reside? Or are we going to allow our bodies to move through it with the infinity sign and expand out into something different? We can take the wisdom that we learned from that experience, from that emotion. We can keep the wisdom, but we can move the rest of those frequencies right on out, and we can expand out and see things from a different perspective. So that's part of the inner child class that I'm going to be doing on the 11th is
share something about that.
Our egos begin to be programmed when we're a child, and its job was to protect the child. So if we can go back and begin to work with the inner child and the ego as it's developing, because there really is no time space, right? so we can begin to unprogram the ego from the child perspective, and we can have our inner child actually show us what programs it downloaded that it can see is still affecting us to this day, that it can see shut them down. It can show us what programs it downloaded that didn't allow it to expand its gifts that it holds to this day, that didn't allow it to speak how it wanted to speak, to dance how it wanted to dance, and do these different things that we were actually at once very passionate about, that we can't even remember or find passion about, because that inner child's holding on to it, and the program that it developed around that time period shut that down, kind of encapsulated it, so we can't even see it. So if we can go in and begin to relax the ego and to deprogram the ego from that space, teach the ego from that age how to expand and be a shield differently, then a lot of our gifts and a lot of our passions can kind of rise to the surface, and we can see them more fully.
Yeah. And that's another powerful thing. Inner child work has been talked about for a long time in psychology and stuff as well. And I think sometimes people just stop hearing it, stop thinking it has value. And yet everybody was programmed. What I see over and over is like, you spilt a glass of milk, your mother yelled at you, and that was the moment that you felt love was taken away. And then you decided, I'm never going to do anything wrong again because I don't want my mom to take love away. So I'm going to be the perfect little girl. And you end up people pleasing. That's one of my stories, right? People please, people please, people please. What do you want? What do you want? I have to be the perfect person. And people are exhausted, from chasing that. I remember years ago, I used to be in real estate investing, and I would invite speakers to this big association I was a part of. And I brought in this man that worked with people on their mother, father, their parental issues, because our fear of money, making more money than our parents, or fear of being good enough, and all that, a lot of that comes from there. And he kind of scared me, because I knew a friend of mine who worked with him, and he basically said, you have to stop talking to your parents. And because she'd be like, oh, I made $1 million and come see my fabulous house. And they'd come and just criticize everything. It was never good enough, never good enough. Right. And he was like, you have to separate from that. And I was like, oh dear, I don't want to go through that. So the universe did it for me. But the inner child part is so powerful. I mean, for me, my magic, my connection to all the other realms, all of that, I was a very free. My mother called me a butterfly, like you were just like a butterfly, just floating around all the time. And it was cute up to a certain age. And then it became criticized, right? Stop doing that. Stop living that way. Stop being silly. Stop. Imagine it. And so last year, I was teaching an intuition class, and we were doing a lot of practice sessions and everything. And what came through was my inner child saying, it's time to let me be the dominant program, for you to live your butterfly ways every day, blah, 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 and I know to some people, I already look like I do that. I got my pink hair and everything, but that permission, that almost, oh yes, that is how would I choose to live in that happy magic every day? La, 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 la. And, sometimes you don't feel well or you're tired, but being in that. The other thing, I've had several clients in sessions the last 6 months or so, their inner child, like another part of them, or I call them the doubt girl or the guilt girl, or whoever's in your head, or your other lives or whatever. And the inner child came. And one of the ones that was really profound was her inner child came and said, no. It was like, would you please, blah, 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 blah. Will you let go of this fear so we can do this? No. And was really annoyed and said, you know what? You don't care about me. You don't think about me. You've ignored me. You've let me sit over here in the dark. And anytime you reach out to me, you want something. You want me to do something for you. I don't want to, because this happened and I lost it, and that happened and we lost it, and so on and so forth. So why should I try again? And I'm not doing it because you don't care about me. And I thought it was a very profound perspective to think about, that these other parts of you might feel that way, that you have ignored them or hidden them for so long. And now you're like, okay, come out and let's be this and let's do that. And I was like, why should I? Do you care about me?
Right. And so as we begin to step into unity in 2022, we have to look at how can we begin to work with these different aspects of ourselves. How can we really acknowledge them? How can we really acknowledge the pain that they went through, but also the joy? Because we're being asked to step into a space of joy and create from a space of joy. And who better to lead you down that path than your beautiful inner child? What came about last year too was that we don't just have an inner child, we have a star child. And this star child, this divine child of us, can often even take the hand of your inner child. That's the aspect of you that has never been human, it's never been programmed. They are incredible beings of light, and they can come and they can guide and reconnect your inner child too. Remind them the truth of who they are and the gifts that they had, because there's even some of our inner children are so damaged or so scared to shine that they've forgotten what gifts they have. They've forgotten that they had passions at all. So that star child will be bringing that star child in as well to help reignite and remember and reconnect all these different.
Beautiful. I just love that. You know that I think it's Carolyn Neese's archetype cards. She's got, I don't know, at least 6 different child aspects. There's the divine child and this child and this child and the wounded child. And I remember when I was first working with those years ago, it was like, whoa. And you think about everything is multifaceted. So I love that. I love that. So Danielle is asking, can you sun gaze while you connect with Gaia? Well, I'll let you answer that too, but I have a whole class on pineal awakening, awakening your pineal, and sun gazing is one of the tools, but you have to be very careful using your physical eyes to sun gaze. It has to be right at sunset or sunrise. I actually have designed coded photos that have other things embedded in them that you can use if you can't see the sunrise or sunset. So sun gazing is very important. Everything to do with the sun is very important right now. The sun has always been revered by cultures because it brings us codes. It brings us a lot of information, and it's accelerating not just the flares, but the intensity of the light that's coming. And it's not to hurt us. It's to, when we raise our frequency, like everything we've been talking about, we're able to receive that information more too. Do you have something to add to the sun gazing?
No, I love that. So for me, we live where there's woods everywhere. There's super tall trees, so I can't see sunrise or sunset. So I do it with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
When you can sun gaze with your eyes closed and just envisioning and receiving from the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And on a physical level, there needs to be a good mix. There needs to be the sun gazing with the eyes open, but there also needs to be a deep meditation with the eyes closed, because the pineal gland is also activated on a very physical level when there isn't external light coming through that optic nerve. Mm-hmm. So if we want to be able to really open up that clairvoyance on a different level, or not even so much that, because we can do that with sun gazing, but if we want to be able to really settle the chemicals that are being produced in our minds from all the EMFs, the vibrations that are coming in, then we need the pineal gland to really be stimulated and activate and release the melatonin. Melatonin breaks down into serotonin and so many different beautiful things.
Yeah, DMT,
repair, all of it. And that's really activated and done when there is no external light coming through that optic nerve. So my addition to that would just be, make sure you do both.
Yeah, definitely. Well, remember that your pituitary is right here. And that's the reason why the third eye is typically drawn here or felt here, or you might feel pressure over the bridge of the nose and across this area. And the pituitary is the 6th chakra gland and the third eye. And you can see with it, so when you have the sun coming right here in your forehead with the eyes closed, that's coming in as well. One of the things I do is I don't play a lot of games, but I have one of those little pattern games on my phone. And one of the things is you get this little gift once a day, and it opens up nine or 12 little things, eggs or something. And you pick one and you get something, and they're all different colored gems. And I always want the purple gems for a particular reason, not just because I like purple. So I use all of that game for my intuitive, for expanding my communication. And so I push the button while it's putting them up on the screen, and then I close my eyes and I look at them from my inner eye, and I say, which one's the purple one? And then I pick it. And it's gotten to where I'd say, 98% of the time, I always get it right. But it's just a fun little thing to do by recognizing you have many layers of vision and you have many other senses to bring stuff in. So beautiful. Let's see. So Terry said, thank you so much. Great information. Sandra, hi. So thank you guys, all of you. So share a little bit about your gift.
Okay. Yeah. So it's access to my it's access to my library. And then there is the Root Chakra upgrade, where we take it out of survival and we place it into an underlying frequency of trust. Every chakra has an underlying frequency that we operate from. So much of the root chakra obviously has been survival for so long. So that's a really big one that I really suggest everyone listen to, because it was guided by, I think that one was channeled from the Pleiadian Council of Light. All of the MP3s, they're channeled from slightly different beings. It's all who's the most resonant at the time. And what they're doing is taking out that survival energy and placing in with trust. Trust that you're always taken care of. You trust yourself. You trust that you're a divine being of light, etc. So, and then there's a heart opening one that I channeled from Jesus, and he really goes in there and he begins to open up your heart, and he puts a cloak, his white cloak that we all associate with him on the physical plane. He puts that around your energy field so that you can feel him and that you're more connected with him energetically, so that you can have easier access to channeling him, to working with him. And there's a meditation from Archangel Metatron that can be used for adults or can be used from children. He had me not just record it verbally, but he had me write it out in case parents wanted to say it verbally to their children, because children often like to hear their parents' voice. So do that with them. And then I will continue to upload things to that library as I go. I know I have a free class that I need to put on there. So those, I would highly, highly suggest, if you don't do anything, do the root chakra awakening and expansion, and do the heart opening one from Jesus. So yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Thank you for so much generous gifts, so much fascinating information. I'm just so glad. I don't remember who told me about you. Somebody mentioned you, and then I know you reached out to me on Facebook. So I'm just happy that all the little energies worked its way around to connect. And I look forward to playing together. It's so wonderful to find people that resonate and speak the same language. And you're just doing such beautiful work. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. As soon as I saw your energy, I was like, oh, we could play together.
Yes.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you for sharing me with your audience. And obviously they must resonate at a very beautiful, expansive level. So I appreciate all the work that they've done too.
Yeah, everybody's just, we're just so blessed to get to be here and to have more and more support or community to go through our ups and downs with and fine tune ourselves. So, all right. So as we close, is there any other little tidbit, or do you feel complete?
Oh, I feel really complete. It was a beautiful conversation. So yeah. I know that they probably have to listen to it a couple of times because there was a lot of information.
Yeah. Definitely. That's what I love about recordings. I always tell my clients when we're doing a private session, don't take notes. I want you fully present. I want you fully here. I want you receptive. I want you having your own experience while I'm doing my thing, you're doing your thing. And then you have the recording and you can re-listen to it on both levels, right? You can take notes from this video, you can take your notes and you can re-listen and you can experience it, redo the beautiful tube torus. I call it the rainbow light body, that experience. So wonderful. Well, like I said, if you're watching on YouTube, just look below for all the links on how to reach Erica and how to reach me, and get on the list at nanakasha.com so we can remind you of what's coming up and send you all of those wonderful things. And I also do want to share, because Erica so beautifully describes so many levels of sacred geometry and energetics and states of consciousness and wove all these things together, is to make sure you go to shop.nanakasha.com, my shop, and get the scale of vibrational consciousness. It's free. And you can start to see some of the things that Erica mentioned was that you originally worked with to raise you into neutrality. Well, neutrality is a state, and it has an emotional state, and it has a mental state, and it has a process or a reality that you become a part of. And then you said they took you to compassion. Well, that is the perspective that you develop when you're in acceptance. And acceptance is where your emotional body forgives, and you don't have to work on forgiveness. And your mind comes into harmony, and you re-access your power. Joy, Erica mentioned we're meant to start creating from joy. And it's one of the reasons why you might want to look at her inner child class, is so you can find that, give that permission. A lot of people really feel that they're afraid to get into joy because they were criticized or something happened when they were like, oh, fully in their joy. When you look on the scale, joy is incredibly high on the scale, which means that it's a higher frequency where you can see and communicate and interact with other realms. You're going to have much more abundant information. So of course we like happiness in our emotional field, but the power of joy, that frequency of joy, is incredible. And there's a serenity there. And so there's a lot of this is all on that scale. And it gives you it's like an incredible insight, a little tool into what's going. And you can realize if you're dragging around guilt or shame, if you're still have part of you that feels like a victim, you still feel controlled or held back by things that happened to you in the past, then you can look on the scale and see, look at these low states that I'm embodying, I'm carrying in my body. They're heavy, they're dark, they're difficult to see, and they're what are called force states, okay? Originally, this is from Power versus Force by David Hawkins. And all the states below, pride, shame, guilt, anger, fear, depression, grief, even regret, all of those things are force states because it takes force in order to move energy, to move out of it. And once you get into courage and neutrality and willingness and acceptance and love, and you can move up to these higher states, it isn't like, oh, I just want to be in joy all the time. Like Erica said, you're going to ride that scale. That's why you're here, up and down. But when you master your emotions, you can stay at one level, at a higher level, if neutrality or acceptance, while you're going through grief or loss or pain, and you cannot have to live there. You can realize, why can't I change or see the way out? Well, if you're in the basement, it's hard to see. You want to get up to a higher place and have a perspective. So everything's energy. You're beautiful energy. You're beautiful. You're here with a purpose. Everything that's happened to you is exquisitely perfect. It has led you to this moment, and you are vital for this transformation. So take this beautiful energy, make sure you get Erica's gifts, and please share this with anybody. Have a beautiful and blessed day, everybody. Namaste.